everything.
So your bottom line is whoever the creator is, they're the boss. I do what they. Sorry, apologies. Really?
Yeah.
So if it turns out the devil just got creative, you're okay with it?
Turns out the devil just got creative.
If the devil got creative, you're okay. Whoever the power monger is, you're on his team. Is that the deal?
Whoever the creator is, whoever's worthy of worship, the person who's the power behind everything, yes, that person is the one that needs to be obeyed. That thing, but I don't believe that's the devil.
Okay, get it. But then it's your primary allegiance then is to whatever's most powerful.
Yeah.
Not whatever. And so if what's most powerful and what's good come in conflict, you'll go with what's most powerful.
Well, what's most powerful is what's good. My criterion and the person who draws that parallel is the most powerful.
Okay, and I think that's an assumption that the most powerful and the most good are automatically synonymous.
Well, okay, so that's where my belief in the creator is. Not that it's just an all-powerful entity that just does things willy-nilly. The all-powerful entity also has wisdom, right? So he also does things according to wisdom. He also does, he brings into forward life. He causes people to die when it's their time. He puts everything in its rightful place.
You may be
so
right.
It's a whole idea. It's not just an issue of power and him zapping fingers and saying, do this, do that, da.
Well, it means that every instinct I've been born with in my body that says I have an internal moral compass, I should dump it because it's dead weight.
Well,
It's not. All I need to do is go, you're the most powerful thing. I've got this dead weight thing that keeps scratching at me. Forget it.
Telling you, which is outside your moral compass. Like
my own internal moral compass tells me that to kill somebody in cold blood for no good reason or out of malice is bad, feels wrong, and it should feel wrong.
Can I give you a realistic scenario which affects all of us?
Huh?
A realistic scenario which affects all of us. Why do we all pay rent?
Why do we all pay rent? Don't know where that's going, but why do we all pay rent? Okay, I think I know this.
Think about it.
Okay. You could argue two reasons. Self-interest, you don't want to get kicked out, and morally, because you think it's correct because you made a deal with the landlord.
But who made the deal with the God in the first place?
What do you mean?
Is this God's land?
Well, is it? I mean...
For me to say I must have a deed from God saying this is my land from God. Initially, isn't it?
Why would
who has got a deed from God saying this is my land, pay me rent?
I've lost your metaphor, I'm sorry.
Think about it.
kind of went into another branch there. Yeah, they kind of went off tangent a bit.
I understand. I understand
what
what
he's saying. But none of us are going to kill here.
He's
we all
saying
pay rent.
I'm trying to go for the most extreme case because it's easiest to understand.
Paying rent is extreme, bruv. Paying rent is extreme, bruv.
It's not as extreme as killing someone.
So you...
Will you kill someone? None of us will kill.
No, I think it would be... No, I think that... I don't think it's always wrong to kill, but I think to kill indiscriminately is wrong.
Let's be realistic.
But, yeah, okay, if it's just an all-powerful God has created a universe, he's put human beings in it, he's given them the illusion of an internal moral compass because he's some kind of trickster and he likes to torture us with that, but we should dump our internal moral compass and just go, you're the powerful guy, whatever you say I'll do. If you want genocide, you can have it. Whatever you want, you can have it. Is that really the deal? Is that where we're happy?
That's what God are you referring to?
Well, I'm referring to the God that I believe is being described by... Sorry, was he gone?
He's gone.
Oh, he's gone. Okay, there was a guy here who was saying morality is whatever God says it is, which is a bit like what Richard Nixon said. That was his take.
I think what he was trying to say was he was just trying to make sure that, or he was explaining how he understands morality. That morality, like you were saying, as an argument's sake, that morality was placed internally to us. He's just basically saying the source of morality is God. That's basically what he was saying in a very blunt way.
Yeah, but he was saying that you don't need to bother to interface your own morality with. Once you know the word of God, you just do it. The act of comparing it with your own internal compass to see if they tally is a futile gesture. I think he was saying that, and I think it's essential that you test your own internal compass because I think your internal compass is God-given. Yeah. And it will help you to know if the message you think you're getting from God is from God.
But so
it's very important.
So what in the Islamic paradigm or Islamic context, which is kind of troubling you, what is your kind of main issue?
I just see literalism as being an obstacle for all religions. So I'm just trying, taking.
But I think, obviously I'm not an expert, but I think Islamic. If you look at Quran is like for Muslims, it's a book of signs basically. It's not like you've got history. history.
Yeah.
You got a bit of you got science. You got some old stories and things like that. And there's some normative statements, and there's some quite precise statements about context, like the context of war.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these, this tin pot so-called Muslims, what they call themselves, what they're doing has got nothing to do with our religion. I mean, they are sort of taking things out of context to suit their agendas, but that is not Islam.
Yeah, that's my position for Islam as well. I think I see a lot of good in the 5 pillars, as I consistently say. They're all good news, aren't they?
Yeah.
Ramadan's a really good idea. Drugs in the West, we take drugs more, and Ramadan is...
things in fashion now, isn't it?
There's a lot of good alms for the poor, pilgrimage, praying. This all sounds like morally...
So what are the key
moral positives?
Yeah.
But then when you start coming down on gay people, when you start talking about stoning people to death, when you can't accept... Well, okay, I won't forget that, but let's go more general. The idea that someone of another religion is going to burn in hell because they got it wrong just seems like too...
That's very simplistic.
Yeah.
It's very, very simplistic.
No, it's very simplistic of you, the understanding. It's very simplistic understanding.
So if I'm
But it's very complex.
If I'm a good Buddhist, and if I lead a good life as a good Buddhist, is there any way I'm going to get into Muslim heaven?
There's a verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and I will never punish a people, and like if a messenger hasn't reached them.
Okay, but assuming... No, okay, fine, but that's the easy way out. So
No, because that's the Buddhist who's never heard of Islam.
Yeah, fine, no, but I'm talking about if I'm a Buddhist who has heard of Islam, which in the age of the internet we really have. If I make the moral choice that, as far as I can see it with my own internal moral compass, Buddhism works for me. I'm not anti-Islam, but it's the best way for me.
What have you heard of Islam? That's the question. It's a very important
you've
question.
heard of it, and pound for pound, you've looked at it and Buddhism and gone, with my temperament, in my culture, in this time, this works best for me.
I think Islam, as far as I'm concerned, Islam is just about believing in a creator and the last prophet. That is it. That is Islam, basically.
Okay.
That is how you enter the fold of Islam. What you do afterwards, obviously, the praying, the fasting. That is a follow-on thing. So the key component of you entering Islam is just believing in the creator. I know God is an old...
Well, that's not the key component.
I'm seeing it the other way around.
It's not the key component.
I think God operates through the internal moral compass, and I see the internal moral compass being well reflected in the 5 pillars. Therefore, I infer the hand of God within Islam, because in practice the 5 pillars seem to be very moral. Yeah.
It's the 5
so
pillars.
I'm coming
That's the
the other
main
way
thing you
around.
have to do.
For me, I'm looking, and in Christianity, I see
It's
some
not
things
just
which
enough
sound good,
to believe
and
in.
some things that don't work in Judaism and so on.
As well.
So I'm sifting the good from the bad on the basis that hopefully
Do you remember
misinterpreted.
when I asked you a minute ago? I was like, which God are you talking about?
Right.
And you were referring to the description of what he gave you.
He was describing an embodiment of God that I don't recognise as being God, which is just basically a bully.
Now, the way you've understood it, irrespective of how he explained it, I would say to you, that's not how I understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay,
that's not part of his attributes.
Right.
And that's what basically is when I ask you, when you say the Buddhists who heard of Islam, it will come down to that. On how he understood Islam. There's certain people, the amount of people who look at Islam as this devil cult that calls for killing and murder and...
Well, there are people who will interpret it that way, and the Ku Klux Klan will interpret Christianity that way, but they're not good Christians.
I'm talking about the public relations that Islam has at the moment with the West. I would say it's not very positive.
True.
Unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
Now, God would judge them based upon that. That's how God would judge them, based upon that conception, the way they perceive Islam. That's how God is going to judge them. And there are various scenarios. For example, there's another hadith. It says, and there will be an old man, a very old man. When Islam came to him, his defense will be, I was old. I didn't know what these people were talking about. I came from a whole different generation. So God will judge him accordingly to that. So what I'm trying to say is the path to hell or the path to paradise is not as clear cut or promised for anyone. It's God. God has predestined that already. So.
Oh, hang on, you just did predestiny. Can we not do
maybe not.
Predestiny is a whole other quagmire.
No, but the point I'm trying to make is that God knows where the individual will go. and he will judge that on perfect justice. In fact, God, on the day of judgment, he's not actually going to stick to perfect justice. Because if it was according to perfect justice, if God was perfectly just with us humans, a very small amount of people would enter paradise. So there's another form that attribute.
No, that doesn't follow at all.
Yes.
Why? Why does that follow?
Because humans are so imperfect.
Yeah, but
Humans are imperfect.
prime mover, because God chose of free will. If he is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent,
Yeah.
and he started with a blank sheet,
Yeah.
which is the premise of omnipresent was the least of impotent and omniscient.
Yeah.
If he has those attributes,
Basir, isn't it?
which seems to be common to Judaism, Christianity,
He hears and sees
and
everything. Yeah.
Islam, If he has those qualities, then he shouldn't have created a game where he knew people would fail. He didn't have to create us to fail. That is an immoral decision. He created a rigged game, and it doesn't reflect well on him.
But you
now
think
maybe
it was
he
a
did, and maybe we've just got a trickster God.
No, but you
then
think
I'm
it's
not
The
a
premise
fan.
in Islamic faith is that this is a test for us. You know, we've got the book.
Yeah, and I'll take the
last
test on
testament.
the faith that at the end of it, when I see the whole picture, if I did,
Yeah.
I'd understand it was all good and it made sense. And it has to do that,
Yeah.
And I suppose the line where that really falls apart for me is, if this God created the universe, omniscient, omnipotent, blah, 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 and then he chose, and he didn't have to put hell in it, and then he put in human beings who he knew would end in hell,
Yeah.
and they would be there forever. So they would never leave that hell, and at the end of the day go, well, all of that punishment was worth it because the big picture makes sense.
But are you-
They'll never get that moment. They will simply burn in hell for eternity. They will never get the happy ending.
Listen.
That's a God who went, assuming eternity means what I think it means, which is I created a game where I put some people forever in hell, no happy ending, no seeing the
But I
big
think in
picture.
human-
That God has got something
you're
very wrong
thinking-
up top.
Human makes a bit of a concept, isn't it? Because nobody has seen eternity. What is eternity? You know,
Eternity, in the absence of any other definition, the mainstream definition of eternity is it's going to keep being the same. It's in perpetuity forever. Now, eternal suffering forever for beings you've created to be flawed, where you know some of them will end up in hell, which you also chose to create. That is morally reprehensible.
But that's the point. But that's the point I was trying. That's the point I was trying to explain to you about justice, about perfect justice. Now, Allah or God is not going to place anyone who doesn't deserve to be there.
No, but you're saying they don't deserve. The only reason they exist in the first place, have a psychology, a soul, and make any choices, is because God willed it. He created them like clay.
Yeah, but you're not understanding what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is, the point that you're missing is that you're saying, because now you've created a situation of injustice.
Yeah.
Because you're saying it's unjust that God has created creatures who He has given free will.
Yeah, and created hell to punish them in.
It doesn't matter, but
Why doesn't it matter? He chose to put all of these.
Yeah.
It's like a chess game. He chose to put those pieces on the table. Yeah. He didn't have to do it. Did he?
Only God's will.
No, but why? Then I would ask you, why didn't He have to do it? If He's the creator.
If he's the creator, he had free choice to create any game he wanted. He could have created a game
I
where
wouldn't,
people go to purgatory for 1,000,000 years and they learn their lesson and then they're raised. But he chose.
I wouldn't call life a game. Life is not a game.
Metaphorically,
It's a test.
Whatever it is.
It's a game which is a test. Yeah. God created a test where the rules were rigged
game
to a
is a
point where
bit,
they were too punitive
what's the
for him
problem
to
with
be
game?
moral.
Can I
Hold on, what's the problem with game?
I'm not going to answer you if you just like comment in here and like.
What's the problem with
Actually,
what's the problem with game?
Game or test, it's the same thing.
You're not going to answer me, bro. What's the problem with game?
Game test, it's fun.
Anyways, listen.
Bro, stop like
What's
pushing
the
yourself
problem
on me
with
and
game, bro?
like you
I'm
go out
just
figure
asking you a
out. Go
question.
figure out, innit? Go figure
It's
out.
a simple
bro.
question.
Yeah, I
What
don't
is the
like the
problem
word
with
game
game?
because game
I
has so
get
many
it, it's got a
connotations.
What, like
Test,
what?
I'm happy
Like
with
what?
test,
Like
I'm happy
what?
with test.
Right, you
Like
understand
what?
that?
I meant-
Game can be
Bro, it's a
amusement.
simple question.
Like,
What's the
game can
problem
be
with game?
amusement.
He's right.
It's life a game.
Game
It's
can be-
life a game
Yes,
for you.
yes.
Okay, then go
Life
jump
is a
over there the
game.
class and get
Life
hit.
is a game.
Life is
Same
not a
with
game,
test.
Yeah.
Same with
No.
test. Because you know what? It's set up by somebody that has the power for it not to be that. It's not like it's an inevitability.
He's
It was created that way.
He's
Yeah,
right. He's
for
just
somebody
like
that
the word game.
has the choice. Now remember,
The difference-
if you can't go against
the
Allah's will,
difference-
if Allah's will is set, and everything's written in the book of life, then you can't tell me you have unlimited choice.
Okay, let me tell you the difference between a game and a test. when you play a game,
We're playing semantics. It's
that's
just
what I'm trying to say. I don't want to go in there.
I don't
It is
think it's
semantics. It is semantics
I
to
don't
me.
think it's semantics.
No,
It is to me.
It's your belief.
I can understand the
It's your
game.
belief.
The word game sounds flippant. Yeah. You
Who
don't
does
like
result
it,
affect?
so I'll change it. I'll use test.
Us.
You like test?
Is it your game?
Yeah, I'm gonna get my own.
Is it your game?
Same thing.
Or is it somebody else set the
every
parameters?
month for
Because
themselves.
games,
But God set it.
you know, it's,
God,
that's fun
it's
involved.
still a game for him.
Right? There's some form fun involved. In the game, you can lose.
I get it.
And
Let's just call it a
afterwards-
test. Let's agree
Right.
God
Whereas
created
a test, if you lose out on a test,
Not even a biggie.
there's detrimental consequences to it.
Well, in this
Whereas
one-
a game, you
lose in the game.
But a game, you
so
don't
it's a
really
test.
have.
It's a
There's no
test.
detrimental
No, I
consequences
want to
to
give
losing
him that.
in the game.
God
I've
created
given you
What are you
the
talking about?
That's the
God
difference that
creates
you
a
don't want to
test
accept.
in
What are you
which
talking
you can go to hell forever.
Yeah.
That's a
Hold on,
badly
hold on.
rigged test. Yeah.
Hold on.
The only I
This
understand
test,
what you're
hold
saying.
on. If it could, I'm saying it could be a game for God.
Yeah,
Yeah?
from God's point of view,
Yeah?
it may look that way. The thing
Because
is, it's quite
it's a
triggering
test,
for people
yeah?
who are very devout.
The
to call it a
consequences are
game.
real to us,
Yeah.
but they're not real to God. As in, He doesn't suffer whatever choice we make. We suffer.
His point-
He said that for
yeah.
us. So it could be a game to God from your beliefs that He's in control of all of these things. Now you believe that nothing can supersede God's will. This is your belief,
let me
right?
give you a hadith. That's a hadith where the Prophet Muhammad told us that whenever
I
a
agree with
believer,
you. I just think
when
the
a-
word game is triggering to people who are quite devout, and test works just as
It's
well
not my
for the
business.
debate.
That's not my business.
Well, if you want to
Well, then it's
facilitate the
game,
debate, I think your
test.
point
listen
is
to
right.
listen to me.
Yeah, go on.
Like the point I'm trying to make is, you see, he was saying that God doesn't suffer from when we do certain things.
Actually, you were saying that, and I
Yeah,
think it's a
yeah.
good point. He doesn't
That's-
have the moral repercussions when
yeah,
he
maybe
breaks the
because
game.
that, but,
The
but
test.
in Islam, we don't believe that God doesn't is not affected by what we do.
Okay.
It doesn't affect his dominion, it doesn't affect his power. But however, that's a hadith where the Prophet Muhammad said that when two servants of God commit zina, what's zina in English? Adultery.
Yeah.
That God is he's very distressed by that.
Right.
It's not nice because at that point, the moment, his servants, the dignity, right? They belittle that dignity in that act.
How does this
So-
affect God?
Okay.
Like,
Well, I think
I
no,
just
he-
told
he,
you.
no, he actually he's
He doesn't
you're-
like it.
That's
It's not
my
nice.
belief. That's what I
Your
believe.
belief is that it's not nice to God.
No, he's,
Is that what you're saying?
He's claiming,
No,
yeah.
he's
Someone
the- he's-
commits fornication.
He's distressed by
He's
two
not
servants
nice.
of his.
pitching. He's pitching a cogent thing in
distress.
Christianity
You
as
believe
well.
somebody can distress God?
God, yeah.
I didn't say his dominion or his power or whatever, but the moment that happens,
Yeah.
God is not happy
You don't
about
keep
it.
putting. I think what the problem is, we keep.
It's not
putting
the
all these
problem. You
human-
having a view.
Hold on, one
No, that's
second.
not the problem.
Let me just
Jedi.
say what I'm saying. I didn't
No.
finish my sentence.
No,
I
you've
didn't
been
finish my
saying it
sentence.
earlier because
I
you're
don't- I
laughing,
think
you're
the problem-
ridiculous.
Okay,
Relax,
hey,
man,
one at a
relax.
time.
Finish my sentence.
One at a time. Let him
Yeah?
finish, then you
Just
can
relax yourself,
go on.
man. I think the
I'm
problem
relaxed.
is that you put a lot of human emotions on the place of this so-called infinite being. Once we
So are
understand that infinity is something that we can't comprehend, how can we comprehend the rationality? How can we make arguments for or against his rationality or what is going on? This is what I'm not the one that comes and says God makes a test. I don't have that belief. This is his belief that God is making a test.
No, I'm
so
saying,
this is your
I'm
belief.
saying, I'm imagining, in the beginning there was nothing but God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm running the scenario. God, and on
Can I just respond to him,
the-
please?
Go ahead.
He just said, just a minute ago, he said, "Oh, I feel like you put human
Attributes.
attributes to
Yeah.
God, but
Emotions.
you were doing the same thing by
Where?
saying if you're using human logic now, because he's saying how can God create this and then he creates hell and that doesn't make sense and that you doing the same
I'm
thing.
the guy saying that. I
No,
think
but he
you're
was saying that
we're
too.
agreeing. I think we're
He was saying
agreeing.
too. So you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So
I'm
we in the
not
same
putting
boat.
human
here.
emotions
I'm
to it.
expecting-
I'm
Human
questioning.
logic.
I'm saying
I'm not. Listen. You're describing attributes of God. You're telling me God
Yeah.
could be distressed.
I didn't say this. I
You
didn't
did
say
say
God.
distress.
No. I said, if you listen carefully, I said, like nothing in this earth can affect God's dominion, His power, or His status. But what I said is, when the servant commits that act,
I'm with you.
he looks.
I'm with you.
He looks very not frown. What's the opposite of frown? Like he's very
Yeah. And I understand
He's
what
not
you're saying.
happy.
I
He's
understand what
not,
you're
he's
saying.
not happy about the
I
act.
get it. Can I
He's not
channel?
happy
Can I
about
channel?
Whatever you try, you're tripping up on the words because you're trying to run away from putting human emotion.
You're the only one on this.
on
Wait,
a creative
You're the only
thing.
one.
You are. You are.
Dude, I think in fairness, you asked him, you came in with a really good point, which was, but God isn't affected. And I think you're responding with a point which certainly in Christian text goes, there are bits where God seems to be going, when you hurt one of my brethren, you hurt me. So the notion is that God doesn't just stand in a distance watching someone, that when somebody suffers,
that's the
God
point I was
suffers
trying to
with them. Now that may not be the way it is, but that is an established way of looking at the relationship between God and man.
That's a hadith
and
like
I
that.
think you're in that camp. You're in the idea
That's
that
a hadith
when
like
the
that.
sinner is
You
sinning,
can hurt God.
God, in a way,
if you want to understand it that
empathically,
way, that's the way you want to
is
understand.
being
I already
affected.
told
God
you.
has emotions.
Potentially, maybe they're higher emotions or whatever, but that God is in sync with what's going on inside His creation. That's a
Except for when he's asking a man to kill his own son.
I agree with you. I'm trying to square the circle and the contradiction.
Except for when he's asking a man to kill his own son, then he ain't got
Which
no
doesn't work.
emotions. Then it's just business.
I should be continuing because
No, because
it's a very
both
beautiful.
your points are good. I think you're just not.
He's just hell bent on trying to ignore me.
I'm not.
Go on.
I'm not. But I will.
Go on, man,
Honestly,
keep
I will
it
talk
running.
to you.
Thank
If
you.
you like respectful towards me.
I'm not being.
You've been
disrespectful.
laughing. You were laughing at me just now.
So what?
Actually,
Am I
I
not
don't
allowed to
think,
laugh?
I've got to say, he's made some good points, but I think you made good responses.
Yeah, but you
I don't
can
know
make
why
good
you
points.
guys
It's
aren't-
fine.
I have no idea.
Everyone can make good points, but
I think the word game didn't help.
Yeah,
because,
he didn't like.
But we're taking it
No,
as a
because I
test.
was like, there's clear differences between a game and a test.
Okay.
There's
So
clear, even in
There's
There's,
game
also,
and a
there's
test.
also a similarity, but I'm happy to call it a
Yeah,
test
yeah,
if you find a game offensive.
He's just appeasing you, man.
Okay.
no, he's not
Yeah,
appeasing
you're
me.
acting petulant.
There's
Go on.
clear differences between a game and a test, 100%. Like, it's in English language. It's in English language.
Okay,
But
we
anyway.
could play a game of chess now
Yeah.
as a test of our intelligence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be test and game in one thing. Wouldn't be meant derogatory.
Why would it be a test?
We could agree it was a test
Test,
of
because
intelligence. That's how
testing-
people play
he's
chess.
testing-
Test game.
He's testing your intelligence.
Test game.
But we're getting. I think we're moving into the small print of a separate discussion. The big picture is
No, but the definition of a
if
test.
God is behaving immorally, should I, in a way that I expect God to be self-consistent.
Because you know the reason why.
I expect the universe to be self-consistent, morally, physically, and in every way. That's my inner
Because-
compass tells me. If you're not being self-consistent, there's a problem.
Because you know why I was saying that? Because in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this. And He says, remember, this life is not like, he criticizes people, the way they live their life, and says that the way they live it is like a game. It's like a game to them. And they, for example, there's some people, their whole life is about accumulating wealth. Okay? For the other game, not too much in this, in our generation, but previously, it would be about how many sons you have. Right?
Yeah.
So they're very trivial about life. And that's how a Muslim would view life as something precious. Life is about something very precious, something sacred. Okay.
Good. Well, then the core question I'm asking is: are you comfortable with the idea of a creator who creates hell, knowing the creations he also chooses to make will end up there in perpetuity, and they will never have an end revelation? They will never get any restoration from that, because I'm not morally comfortable with that God. Therefore, I've got to conclude either one, that God is actually a bit of a bastard, which I suppose is not impossible. Option two, I've misunderstood the nature of God.
So how do you expect God to be?
I
Do you
expect God to be
the
self-consistent, and the
No, hold on. Would you have expected God to create creation, and then just have at the end of it just have paradise?
I expect
Yes.
that when the core
Yes.
that I see coming
He did
through
that for
in
angels.
religion is
Tell him he did that for angels.
Angels have no choice. Angels have no choice. Have no free will.
They have no free will.
But they have no paradise either.
I'm not going to bring. Can I not do
And
angels?
angels have no price.
Can I do angels? I think what I get.
I've asked you a very important question. So do
Where
you expect God to create a creation that towards the end has only paradise? Is that what you? What's your understanding? How would you do with God?
I would go with a monistic view, and a monistic view goes:
You choose to be.
everybody is born equal.
You never, man.
Everybody has the equal chance
You chose to be born.
It's not something I'm
reunion with
You
God,
choose to exist.
resurrection, ascendance. Yes,
I choose to.
but
So you're involuntarily here.
you may stay out of balance for longer periods of time. The idea is to become enlightened and balanced and climb back up the ladder. It may take different amounts of people different times. It's totally unnecessary to have a hell there where people permanently go. So in the long term, everybody's going home. It's a question of how long you want to take doing it and realising that you're probably your own worst enemy in the process.
The point I was trying to make.
Sorry, one second. What was you just talking about? Predestination?
No, that's a different topic.
It's like just trying to get balance. It's like creation happens, we're born with a mote in our own eye, and we need to become enlightened.
I was trying to tell you. I was telling you before
Yeah?
he came. You were talking about God being all merciful and all just,
Omnipotent,
perfect,
omniscient, and omnipresent
perfectly
are the
just.
presumptions of. Yeah.
Well, in our theology, we don't use those words,
Okay.
and they don't really have. They have some elements of it that we don't fully adopt them. We
do you
believe.
not think he's omnipotent? Do you think there are things he can't do?
No, we do.
Okay,
All
so he is
powerful.
omnipotent.
Yeah, we believe that.
Do you think there's anything he doesn't know?
No.
Okay, so
El-Halim.
he is omniscient.
El-Halim, yeah.
And do you think there's anywhere that God doesn't have access to?
Because then he's not in his. I don't believe that he's in his creation. If you
Oh,
saying
okay, I
that.
see where omnipresent could be a problem.
Yeah,
because you
but-
believe in a very separated, he's outside watching. So he's omnipotent, he's omnipotent and he's omniscient. He knows everything, he's all powerful, but he's watching from outside.
Yeah, we just have
Yeah.
different terms to describe
Okay,
that.
whereas
that,
if you're a
that
Buddhist
element.
or
El-Basir,
probably a Christian, you think
El-Samir.
it's more imminent.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the point I was trying to make is just before we went on the tangent is that God is all just, huh? He's all just.
Yeah, I see.
So like any judgment that He will pass, yeah, by default, can't go against a human or a creature that would experience injustice. It's impossible for God to be do injustice.
On what basis do you say that?
He says this of Himself.
Yeah, but then your
Yeah.
so your starting point is it says it in this book, so it's true. My starting point is my
Because we
moral
talk-
compass tells me what's going on.
You're going somewhere else because we're talking about the Day of Judgment, right?
Which
We're
is just in the book. I don't even believe in the Day of Judgment.
No, but we're talking about it. So since we're talking about it, I'm telling you that God says on the Day of Judgment, yeah,
According to the book.
fair enough.
And the book might be wrong.
No, but still we were having the conversation. That's not the point. You're trying to go somewhere else now. We were having the conversation about the Day of Judgment in paradise and hell, no? Is that the conversation
Actually,
we were
not
having?
exactly. I was just trying to really
Because you didn't say that you. I'm sure that you don't believe in it, but you were having a conversation with me about it.
we did though that language came up, but I was
Yeah.
really just trying to pitch the concept of hell is immoral.
Yeah, and
Full stop.
and that's what I'm trying to explain to you. That's why I'm telling you that God says, I will. He's never going to place a human, right,
Yeah.
or a creature that is created in a situation in a hereafter that creature or that human is experiencing injustice. It goes against his internal attributes.
So
He can't be unjust.
So for that to be self-consistent, it means you think it would be just for something to end up in infinite hell.
I believe that.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't. That's still the same point. I believe it is unjust for a thing. No finite entity could do anything so appalling that the punishment that was proportional
Really?
would be infinite torture.
Hitler and
No. Even Hitler. Hitler wasn't born evil. I'm not bigging up Hitler. Don't get me wrong. I'm not for one second bigging up Hitler.
Okay, I don't want to say Hitler, but there are
Take
evil
the
humans.
worst case scenario.
What
Take
about
Hitler.
evil humans?
There are evil human beings,
Yeah.
and I get that an evil human being
And-
should have retribution, which
What
was
about-
constructed,
what about- hold
but
on.
infinite retribution with
Yeah,
no
but
salvation.
so what about those
too
humans?
much.
So what about those humans who've done something like 100 years ago?
Hey, we had Hitler. He was bad enough.
and their
We did
injustice and their legacy is continuing. So it's not exactly just
It's
because
still
they
not
died.
infinite. The difference between
What?
finite and infinite is just cosmic. There is
No, the
comparison.
reason why it's infinite is, first of all, is because God created us.
Yeah.
And He created this earth. And this earth is finite.
Yeah.
So the purpose of our creation is not being on this earth.
Yeah, but
Yeah? Yeah.
well, it's got a limited
Yeah.
amount of
Yeah.
but
We weren't created. We weren't created to be here
but you were.
forever.
What am I pointing?
We were created for
You were
for
created
paradise.
to be finite. You were created to be fallible. Human beings are created fallible. It's made very clear in the Bible. We are created to be fallible. So if any individual falls victim to the fallibility of their own nature, they may end up in hell forever. That to me is not just, because it's infinite punishment from a thing which had a finite flaw from the outset.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to have a finite flaw, God chose it. Therefore, God rid the text.
So you're saying basically the logic is that you're looking at on our earth and you say, well, we lived here for a finite amount of time.
With a flawed mind,
Yeah.
limited perception,
Yeah.
and a whole load of reasons why I might get it wrong. In good faith, get it wrong.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm concerned, if I give it my best shot, just because I get it wrong, I don't expect to be punished.
And that's
Certainly not
exactly
infinitely.
what I was trying to say. That's the next point I was getting to.
But
That's
even
what-
if I don't give it my best shot, even if I'm Hitler, even if I'm the worst person who ever lived,
Yeah.
I don't believe that person was born evil.
No, but then you don't get to choose to say that. Who gives you the authority
because
to...
I have an internal moral compass, and when I look out of human nature, when I look
No,
at a baby
but
or
that-
something goes... This,
But you're just a human.
No,
You're
so
just
now
a
you're
human
saying I
every
should
day.
abandon my internal moral compass?
No, I shouldn't say. You shouldn't do that.
Well, you're saying I'm
but
just
you
human
shouldn't.
in a way
no,
that
no,
means
no.
I
You shouldn't. You shouldn't at all.
Well, I'm not.
And you're totally entitled to have these.
I think
these
I think
opinions.
God wants me to use
Yeah,
my internal moral compass.
partially, but everything has its limitation. Remember.
For sure.
And what I was trying to say to you is, it's fine to have these thoughts, and you're not very unique in it. There's a scholar called Ibn Taymiyyah. He's a revered scholar in Islam, and guess what? He had the same views, like similar views to you. He was struggling with the idea why someone would reside in hellfire forever. You know what? He came to the conclusion that hell is finite.
Which
believe that.
means okay, that's a better answer. But then that means that
No, that is his opinion.
okay, I like his opinion.
And he was
That's more
struggling,
morally consistent.
And I understand. That's why
I'm not in favour of hell anyway.
Yeah,
but
but
it's
that's
too
why
much.
I,
But at least it's not.
yeah, that's
infinite.
why I give I'm not I don't frown upon your that you came to that conclusion, because there's great minds in Islam who had similar ways of thinking. Although many people say that Ibn Taymiyyah changed his view, but that's a bit controversial whether he did or not.
Okay.
But the fact is that he came to that conclusion, and there's other people who have
Right.
similar
I think
conclusions.
it's a very
Yeah.
good question to ask.
However, it is a good question
But
to
wait,
ask.
wait. If his answer is correct, I feel more morally satisfied. I still think hell is too much, but infinite hell is just way beyond. Yeah. But if that's true, then if in the Quran it says that hell is infinite, and he's reached the conclusion it isn't, then that means that what's written in the Quran presumably isn't literally true.
No, he obviously used corroborating evidence. Because you see, that's the thing. A lot of Westerners, a lot of Muslims fail to understand. They would, for example, go to one verse, and then would pick that verse and think that's what the central message is of whatever topic that verse talks about. Whereas sometimes there are corroborating verses, hadiths, and then you put them all together, and then you form
Well, I don't know the Quran the way you are, so I'm just asking.
Yeah.
I
because there's-
believe the Quran would say what I would find in the New Testament, Old Testament maybe, which is that hell is infinite. Is that the case in the Quran or not?
There is. I don't know of the. I forgot because it's a long time.
Okay.
But there were certain reasons that made him believe that it was finite.
Right.
And it was in the Islamic tradition. It was not something that he just pulled out of thin air.
I get that. I like his reading. What I'm asking is, would I find a bit of text anywhere in the Quran which would claim hell was infinite?
Yes, sure.
I would.
Yeah, you would.
Okay, right. So now we're back on consistency. I've got two takes. If it says in the book hell is infinite, and you have a scholar who's reached a conclusion I'm more in favour of, which is it isn't,
Yeah.
both those things can't be true. Hell cannot be simultaneously
I disagree
infinite
with him.
and non-infinite.
I disagree with
So so you disagree with him?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we're back. We can't use that one. So we're back with infinite.
No, I was
hell.
just showing you that it's quite remarkable that Ibn Taymiyyah, because he was grappling with the idea
But to me,
also.
but these are the obvious questions to ask.
Yeah.
It's not to me that remarkable that someone I've never heard of is asking the same questions I'm asking, because these are the important
To
questions.
me, it is.
Really?
To me, it is because you don't.
We sort of have the same issues. We think about these issues.
That's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, these are the
That's
natural
trying to-
questions to ask.
It is remarkable
but I'm
to me.
disagreeing with the conclusion.
It's remarkable to me because you've never heard of Ibn Taymiyyah, and I see why you would have grappled with the idea. But however, like I was saying, remember, at the end of the day, it's just an opinion that you have in here.
Yeah, but apparently
Okay.
the state of my soul may depend on the conclusions I draw about that opinion. So to go, it's just an opinion, is to massively understate the state.
No, what I'm saying is, again, I'm not trying to belittle your opinion.
I didn't think you were.
But I'm saying, at the end of the day, the way you view the world is not based upon our half an hour conversation. There's so many things that go into your worldview and your understanding on how your paradigm, right? It goes so much into it that I don't know how old you are, but it took a while for you to form these views, right? But at the end of the day, those views are just views that are based upon your experience.
Yeah,
and,
well,
and
I'm not. Yeah, of
just
course
something
they're flawed,
yeah.
and I could be completely wrong, and I need to keep inspecting all my assumptions. But what isn't in dispute, if I buy your view, is that the stakes of this game are, I could burn in hell forever. Yeah.
There is.
So you might belittle my own cognitive ability.
I'm not belittling.
No, I didn't mean that in a negative way. I mean, you might quite rightly point attention to the fact that I'm a flawed entity and I might have misread things, and that's something we learn from all religions and is very true. I think it's one of the main things in religion is to go, have I got it wrong? Have I got it wrong? Because I'm a self-deceiving creature. Yeah. But even though that's true, the stakes are infinitely massive. This is very
in
important.
Islam, there is a common understanding, or there is a hadith, or it may be in Quran, that if you have atoms worth of belief, you will not taste hellfire.
Yeah.
There is that belief. So atoms worth. What is atom?
That is great, but I like it, and thank you. But I still have.
I'm not making this up.
I get it. Yeah. Even with that belief, God to me still went through the design sequence of the universe, where He included all of the elements, where He knew in advance I will be sending something to infinite hell. He made that moral choice. That choice to me is immoral.
But there's things that can change.
But
but
immoral, like
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Dua, when we supplicate, that can change ultimately."
but there's still hell.
There's still hell. There's no way.
That's the point.
Forget the exceptions to the rule. Look at the hard case scenario. If just one person in the whole of history ends up in infinite hell, God, with foresight, made that decision.
Yeah.
My moral compass tells me absolutely that's immoral.
Yeah.
I
don't think it
my
is.
aspiration tells me right. This is.
And I don't believe it is.
So you think it's okay for one entity to suffer for infinity? That's okay with you. That's an important distinction.
I believe it.
What about the guys that are doing the bits for the humanity, for the community?
Yeah, that's all great, but the God could have created a test in such a way that the good people it worked for and the bad people had to learn lessons, but it worked when they learned the lessons. but not infinitely, because there's no way out.
But hold on, bad people go to paradise too.
Apparently, they go to hell.
No, they don't. They don't. They go to paradise too, and that's the point I'm trying to make. It's quite complex. It's not that easy.
Okay. I did ask you if your hell was infinite, and you said yes.
It is, but it's...
Well, then you don't leave. So you don't go to paradise.
but there's more nuance to it.
Infinite means you don't leave. It
No,
means...
but are you talking about the place hell, or are you talking about the people there?
No, the person's sentence is infinite.
Okay,
hell...
no, it's not.
Oh, we had a miscommunication.
No, that's not.
That was really important.
Yeah, right, and that's what I'm trying to say.
We could have built 100 years worth of difference based on misunderstanding what we meant by that word.
And that's what I'm trying to say. Let's reason, let's talk, and let's have respect for each other, because that's very important.
That changes things a lot.
When someone sits here and giggles, that's not the way.
He was more serious than you thought.
No, but he was giggling. I heard him.
When he rolled in, he was, I don't know, maybe he was just high-spirited, but he said something which was just, it wasn't for Miriam.
Let me
but
tell you
thereafter, the guy was actually very on point, I thought.
I agree. He made good points. But fools make good points. Not that I'm saying that he is a good
I'm
point.
not concluding he's a fool.
No,
based on...
neither am I. I don't think he's a fool. In fact, I think the opposite. He's an intelligent guy.
His opening comment, I thought, completely...
He's an intelligent guy. But I just say that if you want to have an interaction with people, then come in the way I've come in and decorum. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, I agree.
If I hear giggling, whether you... Because remember, he's
when
not
he
giggling
said
at
game,
you.
in his own mind, he wasn't lacking decorum. I think for you, game sounds like it's trivializing.
Yeah.
But I think I can understand why he didn't think game was. He was imagining it from the mind of an absolute God who's so above it all, to him it seems...
Like a game,
Like a game, that's all he meant.
Yeah, and I disagree with that. But so the
So
point...
we don't believe in infinite hell in the sense of infinite suffering as a punishment?
Not for everyone, no.
Don't do that. We were nearly free. You mean somebody would? You mean
there are certain people who will go hell
forever,
and they will come out.
Then they're not there forever.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't say they're there forever. I know hell, the place may be there forever. So they don't get an infinite sentence in hell. I mean, you get 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 100 years, but you don't get infinity.
That's the Islamic understanding, or my understanding anyway, that if you're a non-believer in God or Creator, and you would obviously enter the hellfire
for how long?
For eternity,
apparently forever.
No, that's... But like
there's different.
It's a concept, isn't it? I mean,
no, look. There's no.
Eternity. Why are we playing with words? We know what eternity means. It means the opposite of a limited time span. It means forever. That's what eternity
Okay,
means.
this is okay. If we want to,
Yeah, but then so's virtually anything. You know, black, white, yellow, light, up, down. I mean, you could interpret anything, but that's desperate. I mean, no offence, but to say, if it says eternity, in any mainstream colloquial sense, it means something other than finite. It means infinite. Yeah, and if just one soul ever suffers infinitely as a result of making flawed finite decisions, whatever God created that test, I take to be an immoral God.
Yeah.
And seeing as all the news I get from that God in different religions says, hang on, hear me out. Seeing as the primary message I get from God in whatever religion says, he's very much about being moral, about saying to people, try and be good. Yeah. Seeing as there's this banging message coming from God about try and be good and be nice to each other, when he then comes up with such a blatant example of being exactly the opposite, I have to ask myself if the information I'm getting is accurate. And just because someone goes, well, it's written in this book, that's not a good enough reason.
It's nothing to do that. It's nothing to do with that. It's many factors that play into this.
Well, give me the other ones, because being in a book is 10 a penny.
Okay, cool. For example, look, the issue also is, the reason why it seems so bizarre for you or for many people that a God who is apparently so merciful in one's goodness and greatness and harmonious humans, to put them in hell, like how dare you? Right?
That's my
first
my
right?
strong
How dare
compass.
you?
Is that your compass? Just your internal gut reaction?
No, I don't have that because
you haven't got a compass.
I believe that God has placed a moral compass in me that which has directed me towards Him again. Yeah.
Okay. What's your moral compass tell you? Independent of the Quran, just what does your moral compass tell you?
About what?
About that God or who functions that way. What's your instinctive response?
You know, if I think about it, I'll be honest with you. This is how I think about this. I believe, look, there's a creator who's created everything, yeah?
So you're starting with the book. You're starting by going, I'm going to believe in the book.
I'm not talking about the book. I'm talking about the belief that I believe. Even if
just the idea that there's a God.
No, say there is say there is no book. Right. Okay. If I was to, and you know, it is a sensible question, but it's very nonsensical to me because I'm biased because I didn't experience or I didn't come to the conclusion that there is a creator because I went out to nature and I start realizing, oh my God, there's a design and stuff. What I did was I was post-rationalizing it. I grew up obviously in a religious family, and whilst I was learning more about religion, I then start realizing, oh my God, this is amazing. There has to be a creator. So that was the conclusion that I have. So
you did look at creation. You ran the usual gamut of there seems to be order. It wouldn't happen randomly.
Yeah,
so you thought about it, but you ran the standard sort of Thomas Aquinas route or whatever kind of route.
Yes.
If there's an ordered thing, it means a designing mind. Therefore, there's a creator.
After that, I already. But I'm saying I still had a bias. Yeah, I still had a bias. Every human does have some forms of bias, hidden or more clear.
Yeah, and the message of every religion is you've got biases and double check your biases because they'll lead you astray.
However, if you ask me, and I can't answer other than that, I believe, even today, if someone was to say to me, oh, the Quran is burned and you can't go in there, I would believe still that there was a creator who created us.
But as to the attributes of that creator, if you haven't got, if you just decide, okay, there's a creator, it's still game open as to what kind of creator you envisage. But you've gone from there's a creator to embracing a very, very simple. Now, I don't even start with the assumption there's a creator.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not even that far forward. I think I know virtually nothing.
Yeah.
And I'll check out various things and gamble on them and look at them as possibilities and see how good they look. The minute it becomes not self-consistent, I've got to backpedal and check my assumptions again.
I don't do that because there's many humans who've done that already for me.
Yeah.
Which I...
you don't want to do it for you. If you do it for yourself...
I mean...
Okay, hang on. It's the difference between walking a journey using a map someone else gave you and actually learning the route yourself.
Well, you use the map and you still get in there?
You do, but okay, what happened? Okay, the problem with using the map
and you're on your journey on that map, even though you're walking the same path, will be a different journey. The whole point I'm trying to make it, it's fine.
Maybe the map analogy wasn't exactly the one I wanted.
But what I'm trying to say, it's fine. It's fine to, if you want to do that for yourself, to free yourself from everything. If you think that's the purest way.
Yeah, I think the purest way.
Yeah.
I think the people who've written the best works on the subject, the scholars, are people who will have walked it themselves. They won't just have gone, give me a book, I've learned it, I've memorized it, pass it on. They'll critically inspect it themselves, vet it and move it on, upgrade it, modify it. So the primary way of keeping things true is to check your own compass, and learn it yourself. So the luxury of going, I don't need to worry about it, I don't think is a luxury we have.
I'm not.
And I think religion, that's one of the primary things religion is teaching us, is no. Don't take second-hand shit for granted.
No. But you know, if you know me personally, and that's due to my religion, Islam, I'm a very curious person. Right. I read everything that you can think of. I read into, and I was telling you earlier, right? I read into like the scholastic period in the Middle Ages, and how the Christians, how the intellectualism formed in an institution. Many people don't know this, but it was the churches first, right?
Where it was the Greeks.
But I have a different understanding of who the Greeks were.
And it was probably before that, but we're 2,500
But
years.
I'm saying in pre-modern times, not too recent, right?
Yeah.
Because remember, the Greeks were the first one, but there was a disconnect between.
Well, we got the Dark Ages, and then it went down into Islam because. Aristotle's stuff went down into Islam when he went conquering in, and actually the West became quite dark for a while.
So you have the likes of Israel the grammarian. This is it's 11. Well, yes, it's a Irish 11th century scholar who was involved in reviving the Greek works. But then there's another Renaissance in the 9th century. With the Franks and their love of the Greeks, so there's always like flirtation between them, but
and then Aquinas,
but
and
overall
then the Enlightenment. I'm in favour of the Enlightenment a lot.
But overall, there was a bleak where the interaction didn't happen. I mean, for example, the Renaissance in Italy, there was a couple of scholars that had to import people to teach Latin because Latin hadn't been taught in the 13th century in Italy for 100 years.
Oh, you really do know your shit. I'm impressed.
I was reading. That's what I'm saying. I'm a curious person. I'm not like just this dumb. Not saying
that
anyone. Can I contextualize
this? Knowing history, knowing all of that. Doesn't in any way ultimately mean that you've reached. It means you've got more facts on the table. It doesn't mean you've synthesized them and drawn the correct conclusion.
You know what it does, and I was saying it to my cousin. It increases my belief because the more I it's like almost a challenge. I'm challenging myself. The more I read the stuff, I'm trying to see something that throws me off. But it's not happening. And
isn't it? Well, okay. Then you're not looking, I assume, particularly objectively at Darwin and Einstein and all
I think
of
Darwin is very
guys.
misunderstood, especially like his beliefs on certain things. I think he's very misunderstood. I believe he's been hijacked also. Because if you look at Darwin when he was alive, around his time, he was not really fond of the atheist fraction. That was he was not very fond of them.
As I understand it, Darwin didn't print for about 20 years. He held back because he realised the ramifications of what he'd found. And he was a man of faith. But he realised he'd reached a conclusion which would even test his and certainly test the society's. So he knew he was really letting the genie out the bottle. And he only printed because then someone else reached a similar conclusion and he thought I should get credit.
But again,
you've got to take the guy on the chin, and I'd much rather that Darwin hadn't landed on planet Earth in a sense. I like the view of the world prior to Darwin far more than I like it post-Darwin.
It's interesting.
But facts are facts, and I think you've got to try and go in a self-consistent universe, physically and morally. These books should be able to come together in a way where they don't do violence to each other. And Darwin, if you're objective, looks kind of unfortunately rather strong. It's a pain in the ass, but what are you going to do?
I honestly believe, there is harmony in what I believe in my existence. And there was like the study recently by the University of Mannheim. I grew up in Germany. I don't know why I said that, but so there was a recent study of the University of Mannheim, and the study was about finding out what group of people feel the greatest who have the greatest satisfaction of life. Right. That's pretty much what it was. And then there was 62,000 responses to the study. So that's quite a lot. It's a big sample. And the conclusion was believe it or not, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Muslim, but the Muslims came on top.
I could believe that. Right. I could completely believe that, but I think I distill it down by going, I've heard this stuff.
Oh, you've heard of this study?
People, I think the more general truth is people of faith tend to be happy. I don't know if happy is the right word, but they seem to be more balanced or more in tune with life.
Now,
this is true. It doesn't mean they're right. They might be delusional, but the statistically
hold on, let
true.
me tell you something.
Let me go to the deeper thing.
Sorry.
I think the real subset of this is, if you really dig in, what you find is people who feel there is meaning in life. That's the real thing. Religion gives people a sense of meaning. You may well find somebody who's an atheist, but they're mountain climbers or something. The common denominator, the deep common denominator is this a meaningful endeavor? And religion definitely brings that to the table, which is one of the main reasons I'm a fan of religion. Because it says you're a meaningful entity in a meaningful universe who should aspire to be meaningful and moral, which is all cool. So I think if you don't have that platform and context to life, you'll be adrift, and religion is well aware of that, and that's the danger of atheism. But that doesn't mean I have the luxury of being able to chuck Darwin out just because he's inconvenient.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. I didn't chuck him out.
Well, how do you synthesize Darwin in with this?
To be honest, I read about his life first. I wanted to know who he was.
Okay.
I haven't delved into what he said. I wanted to understand who was he first.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do that. I tend to do that a lot.
Would you do the same with Einstein? I just look at his theory of relativity. I wouldn't feel before I can approach it I need to learn his backstory.
You know what I've learned by reading biographies? What you learn is sometimes
good for you,
for split seconds, it's almost that you realize how these ideas are formed. Because there's also historiography.
It's true, actually it's true.
There's also historiography to things.
Yeah.
Why why a person would come out with a book, or why would a person come up with a theory, or why would the person come up... There's so many... I was reading the other day about this guy called Ludwig Feuerbach, and he was like, he's a staunch atheist.
Okay.
But he was hated by Hegel and all of these guys, because he was just... The assumption they had of him was that he was on purpose, very provocative for those times. And he's a contemporary, I think, to Nietzsche.
No, not if he was contemporary to Hegel. He couldn't be.
No.
To
You're
Nietzsche.
right. You're right. I'm gonna have to double check that. But anyway.
Okay. Well, can I pick up your point? For example,
sure.
I originally was saying, knowing the backstory of the person shouldn't affect the truth of what they're saying, and I think in something like, say, mathematics, less so. But when it's an ideology, most so. Someone like Nietzsche, very much. I think knowing his personal history, Sartre, knowing his history because it's a philosophy and it will taint it. Darwin's kind of in the middle ground because he's drawing a theological conclusion. He's drawing a conclusion.
But his daughter died as well.
But
Do you remember when?
A scientist.
But do you remember when his daughter died? They had a massive
Not personally, no. I haven't seen the film.
Oh yeah. So basically, when I was reading about his the biography was saying that the death of his daughter caused him a lot to be very critical about life and more skeptic about it.
He draws a very tragic view of life.
And I feel like sometimes on both sides, for the atheists who claim him or the theists who try to refute him, I feel like sometimes when you miss out that form of humanity, that aspect of humanity, it is almost unfair sometimes to interpret his work for your own agenda.
Well, I'm not. The beauty of...
I'm not saying you are.
No, but it's ultimately... I know you're not. It's ultimately a scientific theory, which means it has to stand on its own ground. If it's more of an ideological theory, probably knowing more about the person, like Hitler, is cool. When it's just maths, the closer it is to a science, the more it doesn't probably need so much context.
I understand what you're saying. Scientific, if it withstands the scientific...
What you just said about Darwin, though... Did you see Zizek debating Jordan Peterson this week?
I've started it, but I haven't finished.
Because I've heard Zizek tell this before, and this is one of the reasons I would big up Christianity, and it brings it into Darwin, and it's interesting. Because Darwin's painting a view of the world which is essentially potentially meaningless and very dark and tragic for the human condition, Zizek's observation about Christianity uniquely, and I'm not trying to big up Christianity per se, and he's quoting G.K. Chesterton, I think. He goes, Christianity uniquely is the only religion. There's a bit in Christianity where Christ is crucified and he goes, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Achi, what were you saying, Issa? You want to leave?
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
To be honest, we're all going to have to shift. But he says, Christianity is the only religion where God for a minute becomes an atheist.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a fascinating paradoxical concept. That in that religion, God as man for a minute goes, God, why have you forsaken me? And there is some very interesting...
That's deep.
Yeah, it's very deep. As a Darwinian solution, the idea that actually got taken down to the Darwinian point of this is pointless, and in that moment the phase
That's why we Muslims have such an
self-validated,
issue with that story.
It makes I'm not trying to say that makes Christianity right and other religions wrong, but I think when you're looking for particular strengths, that's a particularly paradoxical nuance of Christianity that I think is rich. Particularly when you're trying to face off against Darwin and stuff.
Well, we should have more conversations,
We should have more conversations.
I think you're open-minded.
I think you're open-minded. I think that was, and I'm very impressed that you've back-read as much, far more than I have.
No.
I was just going to say regarding the reading Surah Mu'minun, the 23rd chapter, it mentions the reasons as to why people are going to be punished in the hellfire eternally. The whole Quran is full of reasons as to why Allah would logically do that. So, but it might be something for you. You may not be able to come to peace within your heart, but I'm 100%. Well, there's a verse in Surah Mu'minun where Allah says, well, with the people, they end up in the fire, there's foretelling the day of judgment, and they say to Allah, return us back to the dunya, return us back to the world so that we may do righteous actions and worship. And Allah says, كَلَّا إِنَّهَا كَلِمَةٌ هُوَ قَائِلُهَا وَمِنْ وَرَائِهِمْ عَذَابٌ. So he says, verily, it's just a statement that they're saying. They found themselves in the deep of it now, right? After all their mocking and saying that it didn't exist and belying the verses and the signs of Allah, and now it's become a reality to them. That's the only reason why they're speaking. And he said, if we were to return them back to the worldly life, they would still remain upon what they were upon before. It's only because it's hit the fan for them now that they've got some. And I'm totally that.
No, I mean it's a very nuanced.
That's just me cutting it short because there's other verses.
No, it's a very nuanced conversation.
Couldn't it hit the fan for them for 100 years and they'd have learnt their lesson? Well, they really have to be there for infinity.
Well, then what about the people who actually learnt the lesson before that? What about how is that justice to the people who actually lived their lives and strived and listened to what they were supposed to?
Because if you're a good person and you're an empathic person, you'll be glad when somebody gets a break, even if they weren't as good as you.
Maybe you're not empathic.
But empathy is the essence of morality. If you look at examples of what's good and bad, you'll find the common denominator, if you distill it down, is very much to kill is a fundamentally unempathic act.
I think we have to.
It's a lack of appreciation for other people. I think, for example, if you stab, I don't think you could stab me if simultaneously you had to become inside me and feel the effect of what you did to me. The only reason that you can kill me is because you have the luxury of not being, of not knowing my reality.
So then you would essentially disagree with any form of capital punishment?
No, because I think there are proportional responses, but I think we're trapped inside our own bodies and we don't have to feel other people's feelings. We can opt out. But the reality is we're all online 24/7. And if you were to see the real world completely, you'd almost simultaneously be everybody simultaneously and feel what everybody felt.
I think to give justice to like the Islamic theology and the idea of hellfire, we're gonna have to sit down again.
Okay.
Because there's so many aspects to it.
For example,
do you remember when we were talking about that there's certain people who are not going to be in hellfire forever?
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of that stuff.
I feel better about people who are only being horribly tortured for 1,000 years than people for infinity. But I'm being a bit sarcastic. I think that kind of torture is too much no matter what. But the infinity thing just is the cherry on top.
There will be people for 1,000 years.
But then again, I have issue with that because then I think to myself, it's not necessarily that you oppose the whole concept of hellfire, let alone it be for a year.
I think it's a disproportionate response. I really do. Sorry. I think it's over the top.
Yeah, so I think we should deal with that rather than the notion of the fact that it's.
So which one's right to follow? Which one's right to follow?
Nice to meet you.
Which one is
No,
right?
because you see how he said both of them were right. He said I'm not bigging up the other one while leaving the other one down. So which one does he think is right?
Which I think there's truth in all these half-decent religions, and I include Islam, Christianity, and Judaism as being and Buddhism as being half-decent religions.
Yeah, but which one do you think is right?
I think they're all simultaneously right.
They're not all
but
the same.
No, because they need. I think they've all going to have some. impurities, impurities in them that you need to interpret out of them. And also, I think that a number of things can be simultaneous. Different religions will suit different people better at different times. For example, if you're born blind, you're better off not. If you're born speaking English, then you better learn from a book that's written in English because you don't speak French. If you're born learning French, so for example, the metaphor I tend to use is a mountain. The truth is always at the top of the mountain. Yeah. Now, if you stand on the
Next
south
week,
face,
IQ. We need to talk about that.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. That was I'll get in trouble for that one. Mountain. The truth is always at the top, yeah? If you stand on the south face and I stand on the north face and you want to get to the top of the mountain, the advice you need is travel north. The advice I need is travel south, yeah? So we're both going to be given written different descriptions as to what we should do. And we might think we're being told to do different things, but we're not. We're both being told to do the same thing, travel from where you are to the top of the mountain.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing, but it expresses differently, yeah?
Yeah, but which one? Yeah, but I know how.
What do you mean which one? No, they're both right.
I know, but which one is the last one to follow? Because they all come in order, no?
What do you mean the last one? You're climbing up and I'm climbing up, but we're coming from different sides, yeah? But we're both. The important thing is we're both heading upwards.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, but it doesn't relate to my question.
Oh, okay.
Do you get what I mean? Like my question is like, which one is the one that you want to follow? Not like, we have 5.
The one I want to follow is the one. Then what the question I have to ask?
The one to follow.
The one to follow is I ask myself the question. And I have to be honest with myself, where am I personally standing right now relative to the top of the mountain? Because if I think I'm standing on the north face and I'm actually standing on the south face, I'm going to follow some very bad advice. So the primary question is to work out who you are and where you are, then you'll be able to work out the route up there. And most of religion, I think, is about going, the top of the mountain's obvious, mate. Your problem is working out where the hell you are in the first place, because you ain't going to get up there. Most people fail to climb the mountain because they don't realise where they're starting from.
So which one is the one that enters you to the top there?
There isn't one. It depends on different people are born at different locations around
no,
the mountain.
but what he's trying to say, he's asking you a question,
no, I know,
and you're giving him a scenario.
Yeah, I'm giving a scenario.
It doesn't relate to my question.
But the answer, he's not getting it.
Okay,
I'm not getting the answer, you know what I mean?
Okay, religion's got a strong tradition of using parables to illustrate answers to questions. I'm giving effectively a parable. Yes?
Okay, so what do you believe in? Let me change the whole thing. So what do you believe in, personally, you?
I believe there is...
From man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Why do you believe in Zionism?
I'm the biggest Zionist you'll meet.
Oh wow. So you guys been killing a lot of Palestinians though.
What's a Zionist? Huh? What's a Zionist?
I don't know, some people who are trying to take over the world, conspiracy theory.
Exactly, so you don't know what a Zionist is, yet you got nervous when I said I was one.
Yeah, obviously I got really nervous, so I got really scared.
Yeah, because we're going to cut off your bank account.
Oh wow, that's the, you know what I mean? But tell me, who are the Zionists?
So a Zionist is basically anyone that supports the state of Israel. You can support a Palestinian state as well.